Mr. Speaker, I have contempt and disgust, and in a different forum, I would use stronger language for what has transpired in relation to the election of a president for Dominica. Mr. Speaker, we're in the House, and I fully anticipate and understand the refusal, the inability of the opposition over many years to agree to, cooperate with, support anything from the government. It's ridiculous, but we've come to understand it. And whilst I had expected, perhaps foolishly, some difference in this reconstituted so-called independent opposition, what I have seen, Mr. Speaker, is a continuation of pretty much what had happened before. Dressed in better clothes, smiley faces, but the same ridiculous nonsense. Mr. Speaker, a president of a country, a symbol of unity of the people, not even for that, Mr. Speaker, could these folks bring themselves to say, we're not entirely happy with certain aspects of this particular person. However, taking the big picture, understanding what we are dealing with, understanding the historic step, understanding the candidacy, a woman, a Kalinago, that the opposition would have at least said, we have concerns, but we will support. But no, they chose to put up a drumstick. Mr. Speaker, that is really the height of idiocy. This is a situation where there was no possibility, as the English will say, there was not a snowball's chance in hell that that candidate could be elected in this House. It was typically and plainly a spoiling tactic. It had no other purpose that I can see. And, Mr. Speaker, the cynicism of it is demonstrated by the fact that the candidate put forward by the leader of the opposition is a mimic of the candidate that the Honourable Prime Minister put forward. There is no chance, Mr. Speaker, that that candidate would have been nominated by the leader of the opposition and by the opposition if the Prime Minister had not nominated a Kalinago woman. No chance. Again, I would say not a snowball's chance in hell would Annette Sanford have been nominated by the leader of the opposition and by the members of the opposition. And Mr. Speaker, that, to my mind, should be condemned. It may well be that, on reflection, members or some members of the opposition may realize that this was a golden opportunity that they missed to place their names on the right side of history. I can see nothing about the action that was taken by the opposition which is or could possibly or remotely be in the wider interest of Dominica. I would strongly admonish the members of the opposition, please do not cynically and unnecessarily impede the development of Dominica.
We as women should be extremely angry, disturbed, and disgusted at the level that the Attorney General has stooped to viciously and verbally attack another Kalinago woman in the most degrading way. Every woman should condemn this statement and be equally angry. We cannot pull down one woman to pull up another. Can you imagine a statement they chose to put up a drumstick? This is coming from the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Everyone, including the men, everyone in the House of Assembly must at this time condemn this statement. One woman hurt should affect all women. We are aware that the women, in fact, has been the backbone of almost all aspects in the strata of development in Dominica. and to have referred to another woman in such degrading way is unfortunate. Therefore, we have no choice but to ask the Attorney General to withdraw the statement or resign.
Parliament decided this week that Sylvanie Burton will replace Charles Savarin as president when his term comes to an end on the 1st of October. Just to remind the people of Dominica that the president is the head of state, in whom the executive authority of the state is vested. The president is sworn to honor, uphold, and defend the Constitution. The president embodies and represents the constitutional authority of the state. The president serves in a representative and civic role as an expression of national identity, values, and aspirations, and must therefore be an independent citizen of unimpeachable integrity, impartiality, and dignity, committed to the well-being of the people. The president appoints the prime minister, the leader of the opposition, high-ranking public servants, commissions in the administration of elections, justice, and the public service. The president accredits and receives ambassadors. The president opens sessions of parliament. He puts laws into effect and signs treaties. As the leader of the state, the president's moral, ceremonial, and institutional authority is required to protect the political neutrality of the state and prevent the abuse of its institutions for partisan ends. The president symbolically ensures that those who lead government are at least subject to a higher authority that represents the democratic constitutional order, and that the leader of a ruling party is accountable to a non-partisan embodiment of the institutions of state. We believe that given her outstanding record as a leader in people development initiatives, a caring, committed people's person, an excellent public servant in the field of health, a member of the parliament, an educator, an exemplar in respect for the Constitution and obedience to the rule of law, and an upstanding family woman of impeccable integrity, Mrs. Annette Sanford was the superior choice to serve the public interest as president of Dominica. She too would have given Dominica its first female president. She too would have given the Kalinago territory its first head of state. Yet, she was disrespected, denigrated, demonized, and dehumanized for simply engaging with the constitutional process for selecting a president. In Parliament on Wednesday, September 27th, 2023, where respect for women was supposed to be at an all-time record high, Attorney General Levi Peter referred to a presidential nominee, a woman of Kalinago descent, as a drumstick.
A president of a country, a symbol of unity of the people. Not even for that, Mr. Speaker, could these folks, understanding what we are dealing with, a woman, a Kalinago, that the opposition would have at least said, we have concerns, but we will support. But no, they chose to put up a drumstick.
And not a drum has been heard from the Labour Party since that vile, savage attack on the humanity and reputation of our distinguished Kalinago sister.
They chose to put up a drumstick.
Drumstick carries a lot of derogatory meanings in reference to people. A chicken drumstick like the one you find at KFC, the stick you use to beat a drum, a penis. Drumstick is also a term used to refer to a wing woman who accompanies female friends to bars and clubs to assist them in seducing and picking up men. Today, Annette Sanford stands as the people's choice for a president of integrity, voted against by Roosevelt Skerritt, and a band of low-life mercenaries committed to abusing the resources of state and the responsibility of serving in public office for private gain. Her suitability for the presidency of Dominica cannot be compared to the suitability of someone with a record of incompetence as a senior public officer and who has been breaching the civil service staff regulations since 2014. As one of the two candidates for election as president, Sylvanie Burton aided and abetted the abuse of incumbency by participating in a celebration deceptively promoting her as the presidential nominee of the Commonwealth of Dominica. In excess of $50,000 of the people's money was wastefully and recklessly spent in breach of the Finance and Administration Act to influence persons with free entertainment treating to give the impression that she's popular and the only candidate worthy to be elected president. If she still does not believe that this abusive behavior is corruption to be eradicated from the governance of Dominica, if she can continue to condone it, then she's a clear and present danger to the security of Dominica, destined to bring the office of president into hatred, ridicule, and contempt. We believe it is disrespectful, it is contemptuous to the people of Dominica to impose on them as president an obvious puppet of Roosevelt's carrot, who has been a serial violator of the rule of law and who can therefore have no moral authority to exercise critical functions entrusted to the head of state. The tragedy of this week is that Parliament had the constitutional responsibility to elect a president of Dominica and surrendered it to Roosevelt's carrot to install a president of himself, by himself, and for himself. The Dominica Labour Party members of Parliament have decided that they're not going to stand for Dominica and what is right for Dominica. Instead, they will continue to stand slavishly behind one man, doing what he wants with the resources and institutions of state for his personal benefit. The country be damned. The litmus test of the sincerity of purpose of the president-elect is on our doorstep right now. The conduct of Levi Peter in his denigration, dehumanization, and demonization of Annette Sanford in the Parliament of Dominica. Totally and absolutely unacceptable. And the president-elect, a woman, a Kalinago, has a responsibility to clearly state that in the country that she now heads, in the government that is now under her oversight, Levi Peter cannot be Attorney General. He must be removed, and he must be removed now. So, Madam President-elect, if you truly and sincerely love your country, and you've truly stood to serve your country as opposed to Roosevelt's carrot, your first order of real business for Dominica, the immediate removal of Levi Peter from the Cabinet of Ministers for his behavior and conduct in the Parliament on Wednesday, especially insofar as it concerns the attack on your Kalinago sister, Annette Sanford. The country expects nothing more. The country expects nothing less. But of course, if the president-elect will do nothing, then Dominica will have to remind the president-elect and Levi Peter and Roosevelt Skerritt very early, who is in charge of Dominica and who really runs things in Dominica.